Go ahead, Ted.
Awesome. Good to go?
Good to
okay. Welcome, everyone. Appreciate you coming down, Mr. Senator.
Thank you, Ted.
As all you know, it's been a very difficult year for us last year here and in our industry. And moving forward, it still continues to be a struggle for our business and many businesses like ours. So we're super excited and thankful for the work that the Senator has done, and excited to see what he has to offer. So thank you very much for coming down.
Thank you, Ted. And let me thank you, Ted Jr. and Ted Sr. Is there another Ted coming along?
T3 right now.
A T3, excellent.
He's at school, but
And God willing, this restaurant will be around for a long time for T3 and 4 and 5 and whatever to run. I'm going to take off my mask, but did you all get it? I like this mask. But you know what I wore? I was in Jamestown. Anyone here Polish? Polish origin? It's Dingus Day. You know what that is. For you non-Poles, it's one of the biggest celebrations in Buffalo. It's the day after Easter, and it's been a tradition in Poland for hundreds of years, which they brought to Buffalo. So this is the Dingus Day mask, but I'm not wearing that here. Okay, so let me thank the Runs for their hospitality. We also have our great Victor supervisor and the chairman of Ontario's Board of Supervisors, Jack Marin, who always comes. Amy DePrima from the Chamber of Commerce, Kathy Rayburn from the Economic Development for Victor, John Orlob, he's the owner of the Rohrback Brewing Company, which is great, and he was chairman of the board of the New York Restaurant Association a few years ago. From winery, we have the great Jim Trezeis, who has been there through thick and thin. He's the president, not just of New York, Wine New York, but Wine America. And we have Oscar Binka. He's the owner of the Weimer, the well-known Weimer Vineyard, and treasurer for the New York Wine and Grape Association. And Chris Thomas, who's from Twin Elder Brewing, the brewery in Victor. So first, it's good to be back here in Ontario County. I visit every county every year, and COVID hasn't stopped that. And this is my first time in Ontario, in the county of Ontario, and the village. Are we a village in Canada? What are we in Victor? We're a village?
Yeah, well, we're just outside the village.
We're the town. Okay, we're in the first time in the town of Victor, where I am majority leader. And I promised the people of the Rochester and Finger Lakes region that, God willing, I became majority leader, I would still stay as strongly involved in the local as I have ever been. And so here I am, and I will keep coming back and back and back, because you don't do your job in Washington unless you're talking to people and touching base and having your feet on the ground in your state, which is what I do. So it's good to be here. Now, and I want to thank the Thirsty Turtle Bar and Grill, and the Rund family's been doing restaurants for what, 60 years?
1906.
Oh, yikes. Whoa.
You look so good.
So there were Ted -1 and -2. But in any case, it's great to be here, and I thank the Thirsty Turtle, because they are a great operation. So first, in general, I'm here to tell the Rochester Finger Lakes area, I'm here to tell Ontario County and all our surrounding counties that help is now really on the way. Help is on the way with checks. If you make below $75,000 as a single person, above $150,000 as a couple, you will get $1,400 per person in your family. If you haven't gotten it already, the check should come in the next few weeks. Help is on the way with vaccines. We have greatly increased the supply of vaccines. They're going to be available in such great supply that within 3-4 weeks, anyone 18 years of age will be able to line up and get a vaccine. And so we hope by June, July, everyone will be vaccinated. There'll be enough people vaccinated so they have the so-called herd immunity, and then a restaurant like the Thirsty Turtle can be booming again, because everyone will be vaccinated, everyone can come, you can fill up that table and not sit only 2 people there and things like that. So that's a great thing. Helps on the way for our schools. There's ample money for our schools to all open 5 days a week. many sooner, but everyone by next September, and money for summer schools to make up for the lost time that so many of the kids had. Help is on the way with money to take children out of poverty, and I'll talk about that, and also continue after the checks to give people what they need. And help is on the way for our local and county governments, which I'll talk about in a minute, who have always been deprived, and help is on the way in many ways. But what I'm here today to highlight is help is on the way for our restaurants and our bars and grills and all of the food-serving small businesses throughout the country. I believe in small business. I really believe strongly in small business. My dad is the opposite of what the Runs did. They bring things alive. They bring people to life. They bring food to life. They bring beverage to life. My dad killed things. He was an exterminator. Rats, roaches, things like that. And he had a junky little business. And he would pace the floor Sunday nights at 2 a.m. I'd hear him. My brother, sister, and I would hear him. So he hated going to work. It was such a struggle for him, such a struggle. I'll never forget, I used to work weekends and nights and summers. So one time he sent me to, we had done the exterminating for a guy who owned 3 or 4 apartment buildings, smaller apartment buildings. And the guy hadn't paid for 6 months. And I said, Dad, stop exterminating. Well, I can't lose the account. I can't lose the account. You go out there, son. So I get on 2 buses. I go an hour and a half. And I knock on the door's guy, and I said, I'm Chuck Schumer. I'm Abe Schumer's son from Century Exterminating. You owe us 6 months. We've done a good job here. He says, your dad's just a small businessman. He can't afford a lawyer, and if he goes to small claims court, it'll take 5 years. Goodbye. That sticks with me. My poor, hard-working, honorable, decent father had to put up with this. Small business people, on the one hand, a business like a restaurant's organic. It's not just the runs, it's the people who are behind the bar, it's the people who cook the food, it's the people who serve, it's the people who clean up. It's a thing. It's not just a collection of it's like a team. Unfortunately, they lost yesterday. Maybe we shouldn't have them on. I'm a Yankee fan. But in any case, and they're vital to our communities. So when I heard that and I heard what trouble, the groups that have the most trouble with COVID are the groups where people gather up close, like restaurants. We were here in Rochester last week talking about independent venues. That went pretty viral, didn't it, Chris? When we went to what? We went to the Bug Jar. Yeah, same type of thing. So I care about our small business, and to a town like Victor, and a village like Victor, and a county like Ontario, and Canandaigua's a city?
Yes, it is.
And a city like Canandaigua. They're our lifeblood. They're the whole, people come downtown, they meet here, people have met their spouses here, they've brought their kids here, everything. So I learned that because restaurants were having such trouble, that 1/3 of our restaurants, if we didn't do anything, between March 1st and June 30th, would go under. They couldn't pay the rent. 1/3. So I said we have to do something. And the same for our wineries and our breweries and all of the food-serving establishments that depend on people getting together. If they closed, it leaves a giant hole in our economy. Hundreds of thousands of people across the country, thousands here in the Rochester Finger Lake area would lose their jobs. And it was awful. So I went really hard to work. And so what's on the menu? $28 billion in federal relief, and it comes as a grant, and it can be up to 45% of their last year's revenue, so it's a lot. Maximum of $5 million a restaurant, and we kept the big chains out of it. Because when the PPP came about, you know, the Olive Gardens and the Red Lobsters scooped up all the money, and there was hardly any money left for the small business folks like the Runs. So now there's money, and it's very flexible. It can pay payroll and mortgage and rent and outdoor seating and PPE and paid leave and food and debt. And it applies not only to restaurants, but caterers, brew pubs, tap rooms, tasting rooms. This applies to our wineries down in the Finger Lakes region as well. So it's $5 million in individual restaurant. You can get up to $10 million if you own 20 restaurants or less, but if you own more than that, you can't get anything. You're too big. So for people who own the thing. The grants go all the way from February to December 31st. God willing, by September, we will have licked this COVID scourge, and our restaurants can go back to normal. But if you ask them for a loan, well, they say, why don't you make it a loan? Most of them have debt already from the last year. They can't afford to put more debt on top of the debt. So that didn't work. Over the past year, we lost 60 restaurants in the Finger Lakes area. 54% of New York State restaurants said that they wouldn't last another 6 months. You know how many people have lost their jobs in the Rochester Finger Lakes area who work in restaurants and hospitality? 12,000. That is a lot of jobs. So now we're coming with this relief. And one other thing, this is sort of technical, but I'd like to tell our restaurants and wineries and that. So when will it be available? In the next few weeks, they're rolling out the independent, did I hold up the wrong? No. Okay. I saw the nice hamburger here. So they're rolling out the PP program April 8th, which is in a couple of days. My daughter's birthday, April 6th, do not forget, that's tomorrow. But the restaurants will come out a few weeks later, but if their restaurants are desperate, they can apply for the PPP. And I don't know if you know this. Even if you got a first, did you get a first round of PPP?
Yep, and the second.
And the second. But now you can apply for the restaurants, and whatever the PPP lent you, the restaurants grant will be considerably bigger. You pay back the PPP, and the rest is yours. So you don't have to wait, is the point, because we don't want any more restaurants to go under. Okay. So that's about restaurants. Now here are some other great things in the bill that affect this region. The direct payments. People need help. So many people have had so many different problems. And we need people, once the scourge is over, to have some money so they can come to the restaurants and come to the stores and, tourism and motels and hotels and everything else. So I wanted the original $1,200, which gave our economy a shot in the arm. That's why last May and June it wasn't as bad. I was one of the authors of that, myself and Steve Mnuchin, Trump's Treasury Secretary. We negotiated this. But then COVID kept going. We thought, okay, by the summer it'll be over. But it kept going. So we needed to do it again. But Mitch McConnell blocked it and blocked it and blocked it. Finally, in December, I held the Senate in session 4 days, and he finally said, all right, $600. I said, if I become majority leader, we're going to get up to the $2,000 that we promised. And that's why people this week, last week, how many people have gotten their checks? Raise your hands. Yeah, some. And more is coming. Most, if you haven't gotten in the next week or two, if you make below $75,000 as an individual or $150,000 as a couple, you get $1,400 a person. So a family of 4 would get $5,600. That's going to be a shot in the arm to our Finger Lakes, Rochester economy. In addition, okay, and that is, so in Ontario County, 51,000 households will get $127 million. In Monroe County, $858 million to 344,000 households. $1.4 billion in the whole Finger Lakes region to 556,000 households. About 80–90% of the households get it. Wayne County, don't want to leave them out. $104 million for 41,000 households. Then in addition, there's something called the child tax credit. That's going to take half the kids in this area out of poverty. The child tax credit will mean $250 a month starting in July per family, per child. A little more if the child is 0 to 6. And that again goes to below $75,000 if you're a single parent, $150,000 if you're a two household earner. And that's going to be more money. The whole point here is to get money into the economy. not just to get out of the ditch of COVID and be out of breath and just struggle along, but to get the economy really booming again. With these two things, the checks and the payments for per child, there's people going to have some money in their pocket, and guess what? They will come here. They'll come and visit the Thirsty Turtle and spend a little money, and that's a good thing, not just for the Thirsty Turtle, but for our whole economy. State and local government. Oh, vaccines. How many sites are there in Ontario County now? 3 or 4, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have sites everywhere. They're not too far away. I suppose one's in Victor?
Correct.
And one's in Canandaigua?
Correct.
And then there are 2 others probably spaced out in other places. There will be enough vaccines so that by about May 1st you can just line up at one of these 4 centers if you're 18 years or older. They haven't, why not below 18? Because they haven't tested it on them yet. But if you're 18 years or older, and just get the vaccine. And we hope everyone will do it. I know some people are reluctant. My parents, my dad the exterminator, who's 97, he's a funny guy, by the way. He said, "I'm 97, how bad could DDT have been?" But in any case, they got the vaccine, Mom and Dad, 97 and 92. They had virtually no side effects. So I'd urge people to take it. It's going to make you healthy and help you prevent you from spreading it to other people. It is not like these other vaccines. It was really tested, okay? So the vaccines will be there, but there's money for state and local governments. The state needs money. We're all hearing about their budget problems. But I got them, the federal government, at my push, got state and local money in. Again, McConnell didn't want it. We insisted. The state gets enough money to meet its budget deficit, about $23 billion. But what I insisted on, and Jack will appreciate this, and our Victor officials will appreciate this as well, I said, don't just give the money to the state because the local folks never see it. So 40% of the money goes directly to the localities, and I'll give you some numbers here. The County of Ontario gets $21 million. The County of Wayne gets $17 million. The County of Monroe gets $143 million. That's to them. And then there's more money for the, I don't know if we have the numbers here, Chris. The great Chris Zeltman, I'm lucky he works for me. He always is prepared.
Here's Ontario towns.
Ontario towns, I won't name them all, but the biggest ones, Geneva gets 1.3 million, Canandaigua gets 1.1 million, that's the city, but the town gets 1.2 million. Let's see, Manchester, $1 million, and then the smaller, Victor, 1.65. And they can use this money flexibly. Let's say there's, you know, you need to, let's say tourism is hurting and you want to do some advertising, you can use it for that. Some of the counties have decided to use the money for, over in Erie County, now I'm just, these very nice, Mark Poland Cars is using it to give hotspots to people. So the kids can learn, so they can do medical, you know, telemedicine and all of that. It's very flexible, okay? And of course can be used to make up for the lost expenses elsewhere. The total Ontario County towns, aside from the county itself, gets another $12 million. And then there's money for the airports. Let's see here. Yeah, $45 million for RTS public transit. That probably doesn't come this far out, does it?
No, we are included.
But you are. Good.
We are a customer.
Great. Okay, good. And there's money for the airports and everything else. So this is a real shot in the arm, so to speak, for this area. And we have not left out the rural areas, the suburban areas like Ontario County, not just the urban areas. And of course, the restaurants are at the top of the list. So with that, I am going to turn it over to John. John Erlob is the owner of Rohrback Brewery and past chairman, not president, I said it wrong, of the New York State Restaurant Association. Great, John. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll put my restaurant mask back on.
And I'm going to take mine off here.
Yes.
Senator Schumer, thank you very much for coming in today. I do love that mask, too, that says Save Restaurants.
I wore it. Oh,
I can tell
forgot to say this. I wore it on the floor of the Senate for the 5 days before the bill passed because I was the one who insisted, the House, not the House or the President, that restaurants be in the bill. So,
No, we really
well, good
do.
luck.
We really do appreciate it, and he really does. He doesn't just talk the talk; he walks the walk with this Restaurant Act. I think is very important. I'll just tell you a real quick story too. Through the Restaurant Association, the Brewers Association, I get down to Washington a lot, and this is not a shot on other legislators, but when we go visit the other legislators, it's usually the staff that stops in and talks to us. Not when you go to Senator Schumer's office. He's always there. He's a very busy guy when he's in Washington, but he always takes time for us. So we really appreciate it. And I just wanted to point out really quickly, I think if you take the restaurant industry, food service, you look at craft beverage, you look at entertainment, tourism, I think other than maybe the government and public sector workers, the restaurant industry is probably the biggest employer around.
Yes.
And what's important, I mean, it's important for us, this act, and we've been particularly hard hit because of the extra costs for PPP, keeping our customers and our staff safe, but we're still under restrictions. Things are coming back, but we're still at, we're at 75%, but honestly, 6 feet with the table still gives us limited seating. We have curfews, so we're coming out of this, but we've got a long way to go, and this act really, really helps and is really important for us. But I feel, you know, most importantly for the staff, because they've got to support themselves and their families. But again, we're a large employer, and these will really keep these businesses going to make sure that those folks still have jobs in the future. So I just wanted to, again, thank the Senator for all the support and how important it really is for our industry. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Here, I'm going to make a bad joke. Unlike the Yankees, we're not going to leave the restaurants on base. We're going to bring them home. They left 9 runners on base and scored. Okay, next we have Oscar Binka, and he's the owner of the very famous Weimer Vineyard and treasurer of the New York Wine and Grape Foundation.
Let's see, I'm going to take off my mask also.
Who's been around longer, Weimer or Rund?
Or,
Rund. They were 1906.
well, no, that's Herman Weimer. He came 79, so he's young. He's young, he's relatively young. So, all right, so thank you again, Senator. We appreciate your tireless advocate for New York wines and the wine industry. We appreciate all your support effort through the years. My name is Oscar from Herman Weimer Vineyard, but also New York Wine and Grape Foundation. Down, and Herman Weimer's down in the beautiful Finger Lakes, where we might add, you know, have to come and visit here, you know.
Tell them what town you're in.
In Dundee. Beautiful Dundee,
Beautiful,
too.
isn't it?
Yeah, so as we are slowly going back to normal, we are, as we mentioned here, very far from the pre-COVID trajectory, and the initiatives like this that comes to help the whole hospitality ecosystem, which I think is very important that we address. The restaurant tasting rooms, then the tap rooms, bars, and so forth. It's vital to bring it all back, and it will bring confidence. I think that was also something that we talked about before. You bring confidence back to the industry. We can now rehire and think about growth. I know you talked about your building your deck here and so forth. We have been in a little bit of a holding pattern. So I want to...
The money can be used for that. If COVID stopped them from building the deck, now they can use the money to build a deck. It's good. Sorry.
Yeah, no, so we appreciate the foresight in this act that now the hospitality works in symbiosis. We rise and we fall together, the wineries and the breweries. We, as a supplier and a producer, we don't want anything else than see our restaurant thrive, because this is the platform for commerce for us and also our products. So both, we have our own hospitality, but we also see a very interconnected web here, which we also then see this act taking consideration. So, and lastly, I think what you mentioned, Senator, a thriving hospitality is an essential signal for that the economy is back. It's a signal that we're back on track. We want to go back and drink with our friends. We want to eat at our favorite places. So the overarching mechanism here makes it possible for the hospitality ecosystem to recover and thrive. And we are happy to be part of it, and we appreciate that being included.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Binka.
All right.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, to speak, and Jim, I just have to give Jim Trezise some credit. he made sure the tap rooms and the tasting rooms and everything else was included in our bill. And of course, the breweries and the distilleries. We have a lot of distilleries.
Jim was
Jim's
just going to
speaking?
let Oscar, so Oscar covered it, but we're going to have Chairman Jack Marin also say a couple of
Okay,
words.
good. Oh, okay. I thought Chris Thomas, does he want to say something?
I'm all set.
You all set?
Yep, thanks.
Chris is the head of the Twin Elder Brewery, so you can see the expanse. Okay, last but not least, is our great county executive. He's a Republican, I'm a Democrat, but he is always... No. We always work together. This is how it should be. We don't let partisanship get in the way of us working together. That's what I meant to say. I was not casting aspersions.
No, not at all. And actually, I will share with you, it was probably about 3 to 4 weeks ago, I introduced the senator on a New York State Association of Call that evening, and there was about 120 participants from all around our state, part of that Zoom. And after I introduced the senator, he did say, he says, for clarification, I want you to know the chairman and I are not of the same party, but we work together. And he's actually, so this isn't the first time I've heard that, and he's absolutely right. He's been a joy to work with.
That call had, you know, because it had local officials. The majority were Republican. They were from upstate New York.
He's absolutely
They needed
right.
the help, too.
So, besides being the Victortown supervisor, chairman of the Ontario County Board of Supervisors, I'm also president of the New York State Association of Counties. So that's why when I talk about these Zoom meetings, they had all 6 participants from all 62 counties around. I want to first and foremost thank the Run family. Certainly look back, and the Run family, as far as restaurants, have been certainly a long-standing tradition here in the Rochester, Monroe County, Ontario County region. So thank you very much for certainly offering your facility here today. Senator Schumer, I can tell you first and foremost, he's been a champion of local government pre-pandemic, even before the pandemic, and since the pandemic, he's been working with us hand in hand, listening to us. And very important that I say that because that's what it's all about, and the key to success is his listening to us, our needs, whether it was emergency equipment for our hospitals, our employees. He's been there fighting for us, working with our state government, and to deliver. First majority leader in the state of New York. Think about it. The first majority leader in the state of New York really said something about this individual. So I'm proud to work with him at the county level, and most importantly, for my own selfish reasons, down here at the local level here in the town of Victor. He mentioned it. He fought all along. He heard, listened to us. We had concerns about our state government withholding some of this money down to the local level. He listened to us, and he delivered that direct payments of funding would go to our local county governments, and then from there the state would distribute money to our villages, towns, and cities. So again, Senator Schumer, thank you. Thank you for continuing to be an advocate for small businesses. We very much appreciate it. We know what they've gone through, and we appreciate your being a champion to them. So thank you again, sir.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the great job you do. He's a great county supervisor. Okay, we'll take questions on this subject first. Oh, take off my mask.
You mentioned that there's a range of an amount of money that people can receive from this. So what should restaurant owners know about that?
Well, it's up to $5 million per restaurant, which would take into account almost every restaurant we have. And even if you had more than $5 million in losses, you still get up to $5 million.
And then you said it's a grant. So are there terms that it?
Well, there are broad terms as to what you can use it for, but it's very flexible. You know, you can't take the money and take a trip to Bermuda or something. But anything to do with making your restaurant better and stronger, not just in COVID, but post-COVID. We want the economy to bounce back. And as Jack said and Mr. Binka said, restaurants are essential to that. They're so important to our communities. What would a town, a village, a city, even a rural area be without restaurants?
Talk about timetable.
Yeah, they should start being able to apply within a few weeks.
And where and how would they apply?
Okay, the Small Business Administration is administering it. My office will put on its website how to apply for all restaurants, so you could just go to my website.
What about restaurants that have been closed? Is there any timeline about closures and how do they?
Yeah, this is something we're working on. If they've already closed, I believe if they were in existence in part of 1920, in part of 2020, they can apply. Here's the one, there are some that just started during COVID. They're the ones we're trying to deal with because they don't have a comparison between what they lost in 2019 and what they had in 2020. So we're trying to figure out, working with small business, how to get them in. But if you were closed, you can still apply to come back and open. Okay? Great. Any questions on other subjects?
I did want to ask just if you have a reaction to the fact that restaurants are still under a curfew in New York State.
Well, I follow the science, you know. I mean, we're all anxious to get open, but you don't want to have what happened in Europe. They opened fast and now they're all closing again. But I think the timeline is looking pretty good, and I think you're going to find it accelerating as we get more people vaccinated. I would please once again reiterate my call for people to get vaccinated. It doesn't hurt. By the way, if you know, in the old days, an injection hurt. They have these needles that are so thin they don't hurt. And there's virtually, I mean, my son-in-law did have some side effects, but he felt a little queasy for a day or two. That's it. He was the only one in my family who had side effects. Yes, did you want to say something, Mr. Rund?
My question is, you know, this is a very big state, and the restaurants in New York City, and the restaurants in Monroe County, Ontario County, and up in the northern tier, okay, that have been following the rules, doing everything we're supposed to be doing. It's reflected in the community.
Yep.
With the hospitalizations and their sickness rates. When is the state going to let the people that have been doing their job open back up in normalcy?
No, that is the...
Instead of punishing us because down in New York City, where they're all crammed in, they're treating us
right. Well, I hope that the timetable will move with some speed. They got to follow the science. As a federal official, I can't tell them what to do, but I can try to get the help you need so you get back as quick as possible.
Thank you.
Senator, one more.
Yes.
There's a growing call from some people in the Rochester community about to federally monitor, oversee the Rochester Police Department, the use of force. Can you talk about that? What do you think?
Yeah, look, there's now the Department of Justice is, they got an investigation of the police's actions with Daniel Prude's death. They should have. I spoke to his family. Everyone thinks it's imperative that DOJ turn over every stone and get justice for the Prude family. I think that we're going to have this very serious investigation, and we'll see where to go from there once they conclude.
But specifically, the force used by the police department.
I know. It's under investigation by the federal authorities who are going to turn over every stone. Yes.
Actually, this is a question maybe for either one of you. I know that when the first PPP rolled out, there were a lot of complaints from restaurant owners about the stipulations on how they can use it, and I know that this new bill is more flexible.
Much.
What is the complaint that the restaurant owners have?
The complaint in the PPP, they had to keep a certain number of employees. If their rent or their other charges were greater than 40%, they got stuck. Now it's much more flexible. Okay.
And for you, I guess I want to know, like, what was your experience having had the PPP?
Well, I think the first one was tough because we had the rule was you had to spend it in a certain amount of time. So obviously we were spending the money, you know, because we wanted to be eligible to have it forgiven. But that changed obviously because everything was changing. So it was difficult, and thankfully they were able to give us a second one. So.
Sir, Channel 10, I left out one thing. In the ARP bill, there's $206 million in federal aid that can go to the city of Rochester to deal with mental health response, which is one of the things that I think was missing in the Prude situation. And there's Daniel's law at the state level, but we've provided federal dollars in this ARP.
I think I'm thinking specifically about how the Rochester Police handled.
I understand. When there's a federal investigation, they are tough, they are strong. I've spoken to the family, they have faith in it. So we have to wait and see the outcome of the investigation.
Is there any update on your movement to cancel student debt at all?
Yeah, the other day, I am trying, debt is such a big burden on our young people. And by the way, instead of going out to a restaurant or forming a family or starting a business or anything else, they've got this huge amount of debt on their backs, which we never had. And so I believe that Joe Biden, the president, can, with the flick of a pen, cancel $50,000 in student debt. At first he said he wasn't interested, and now they're looking at it seriously, so I'm hopeful they will do it. Okay, thank you, everybody. I'm on my way to Elmira. Thank you.